Welcome to this on-demand webinar about Writeback in Power BI. Did you know that 72% of all companies worldwide are still using Excel for their budgeting and planning? This webinar today will showcase a custom visual which is part of the accoTOOL stack that's called accoPLANNING, where we're showing how you can move your Excel directly into Power BI through Writeback capabilities. During the webinar, I will be demoing and hopefully learning you how to use, how to set up, and how easy it is to benefit from Writeback in Power BI. Some of the key benefits that you'll have from this webinar is a very strong Writeback capability. It's very easy to use in an all-in-one software, Power BI, and how self-sufficiency is possible through accoTOOL. If you during or after this webinar is curious about knowing how this visual or these visuals can benefit your organization, feel free to book a demo or feel free to book a discovery call with me or one of my colleagues, and then we will make sure that you get everything you need to assess if these tools are the right ones for you. And I'm your host today. My name is Alexander, and I am the sales manager of the accoTOOL product portfolio. I've been in the industry for 7 years and has been helping a lot of different size companies with everything from BI to planning. And one thing that I have noticed throughout my time in this industry is everyone is very focused about reporting and trying to really get a grasp of what's going on in their organization. No one is really focused on how we can reduce redundancy or how we can increase in efficiency through our planning processes, through our master data processes. Why not try to do a strategy where you do both your reporting and your planning and budgeting and master data management directly in Power BI? That's why I'm here. That's what I'm passionate about. And I hope that I can show you throughout this webinar. And why are we doing this? Why have we developed a custom visual for Power BI? We started out 23 years ago with BI, with FP&A, and with enterprise performance management, working with some of the industry leading tools. And one thing we found when our customers started adopting Power BI was that there was a need and there was a necessity for companies to do things smarter. And everyone was looking for solutions that was embedded directly in Power BI. So we decided to develop the first tool in the accoTOOL stack, which is called accoPLANNING. The revolutionizing thing about accoTOOL and accoPLANNING is the accessibility. In the past, it's really been a matter of only enterprise customers being able to have these tools or these enterprise performance management tools available. But with the introduction of these custom visuals for Power BI, it's available for everyone. And not only are we trying to challenge the status quo of companies out there, we're also trying to figure out how can we give you guys an experience where your feeling is very similar to what you've been doing so far in Excel. And I'm pretty sure that you all know how well Excel is. You know how good a tool Excel is. But there is some limitations when you're looking at Excel or when you're utilizing Excel. It is very manual and it is very insecure or unsecure in some ways, because all the Excel spreadsheets will be usually somewhere in a SharePoint. It would be on a local disk or local drive, and everyone who might end up getting access to it can then utilize it or can make some errors in it. It's also a tool that requires a lot of time. So every time you have a budget phase, every time you have a forecasting phase, it will take some time to prepare those things for all the people who are doing the data entry. And we wanted to make some of these things automated. We wanted it to make it easy for everyone in the organization to get their data, do their data entry, and then see a consolidated report with all of your budgets or your forecast right there in the same view as you're doing it, making it quicker, more secure, and easier for everyone involved. In a second, I'll jump into the demo and I'll showcase you how this tool works in Power BI. But before then, I'll just give you some core advantages that you can benefit from with these tools. One thing is it's fully embedded in Power BI. Our vision is that everything you do with the accoTOOL products happens in Power BI. No need for you or your people to relearn new tools. They can use Power BI just like they usually do. It's also very secure. Security is a very, very relevant factor currently. It's super important to be secure about your data, utilize your data in a very governed way. And you probably already have some sort of security structure in your Power BI. These visual adopts your authentication. It adopts all of the security you've already set up. So you don't need to do anything else and just download it, set it up, and then use it. It will adopt it all. Another thing is, it adopts your data model. There's no requirements for you to start setting a new data model up for this purpose. You have all the data available. You can utilize all of the data directly in these visuals. You should see these visuals as just a native Power BI visual that allows you to do something more than you can with Power BI regularly. You can use it everywhere. You can use it on your phone. You can use it directly in a PowerPoint presentation if that's how you do it. You can use it on your computer. You can use it in the cloud. So there's really no limitations on where this works. If Power BI is usable there, accoTOOL is usable there as well. So let's go to the demo. So what you see here is just a regular Power BI report. All the visualizations up here in the top is native Power BI visuals, which includes some of the data that we already have accessible in our data model. And then if you see down here on the bottom part of the report, you have a gray line and then a matrix. The gray line and down is the accoPLANNING visual. What I would just start by showcasing you is how can you get access to accoPLANNING. What you do is you open your Power BI, and then you have over here on the right side, you have your Power BI setup. Here you can see all of your visuals. What you do is you can find these three dots here that says Get More Visuals. You press that button and you press the Get More Visuals tab. That will send you directly to the Power BI App Store or App Source. In here, you can search for accoPLANNING and you can see there is the visuals. You press the visual and then you can download it directly down into your Power BI. Once you've done that, you can set it up just like you will set up a regular Power BI matrix. So here you have the option of seeing the rows, the columns, and then you can see there is some differences compared to a regular native matrix. And that's because now we're working with Writeback. So we also need to make sure that the Writeback we're using is stored precisely, is stored in the right data type. So there's a little more work than there would be in a regular matrix. But that's where all the magic happens. So here you have the measures where you can decide if you're doing a numeric input, if it's a text-based input. And the cool thing about this is it's just Power BI. These measures are set up through DAX measures, so you can utilize all of your Power BI knowledge already. And there's a few more options. There's one more option I would like to highlight, and that's the splashing option. The splashing option is a core capability of these tools. The splashing option provides you the opportunity to define a metric in which you want to spread data across multiple cells at the same time. This could be as a driver-based plan, or it could be saying we want to see the average of last 3 years being showcased. And here is your freedom of really utilizing Power BI to your benefit to make sure that you can splash your data exactly on the matter you want. When you've set up the visual, you can go to this Format Visual tab, which is up here on the right side. Here you have an abundance of different options of setting up your visual, setting up how it has to look, how it has to do whatever you need. But if you tap this one, which is called Writeback, you can see there is 3 different sub-menus within it. One is called Settings. Here you can choose how is the Writeback actually going to support you, and what do you want the Writeback to do here. So here you have a very, very large option to really define your Writeback. Then you can see there is a Connection tab. This is where you connect your Writeback table or your visual to your Writeback table, which would be in your SQL database or in your Fabric database. And here you can see you can just follow these metrics, set it up through the authentication. You set up your users, your server name, and when you've done that, you have 2 options. One option is to go directly to your SQL database and set up the Writeback tables yourself. Or you can use this assistance button here, which provides you with the option of generating a Writeback table script, which does it all for you. So you set up the Writeback table first, or the Writeback visual first, and then you generate the script for the tables in the SQL database. And you can run this, or someone internally at your end can run this in a SQL database. And then that automates the process of setting up the most complex, at least technical complex part of this journey. When that is done, you can now start doing your inputs. Let me just go to the reading view again here and say, let's test out an input. So just let the visual update here. And what you should learn when I do this is the visuals up in the top, the native Power BI visuals, will change depending on what I do down here in my accoPLANNING visual. The reason for that is that the data is being sent to the SQL database and then pulled back to the Power BI through direct query. So let's just try by saying we want to try out our splashing option. So now we have set up some predefined splashing metrics. And if I do an equal sign here and press enter, I will be presented with a splashing dialog box. This dialog box gives us all the options. So you can see we had 4 different splashing measures in our splashing tab when we looked at the setup. And here, if I choose my actuals -1, my visual changes. So when my visual changes, you can see these small indicators on all of the leaf level cells down here, which has some information for us. The information is currently pending. So for now, I've just made a change in Power BI. I haven't stored this change yet, but I can. So if I wanted to save this in the database, I can press the save button here. But before I do that, I want to just make sure that you also look at the visuals up top to see that they also change according to what I save here. So now I've saved these input, and now Power BI is starting to regenerate or refresh. So you can see up here that my visual changes. And thankfully, my information that I typed in utilizing my actuals -1 is also exactly the same as my actuals from last year. So currently our budget is 0% in deviation. I can change that. I can also add a percentage to my calculations here. So let's just do an addition of 5% in this scenario. So I'm going to add 5 by typing equal to 1 times 1.05. And now let's just press enter. And once again, I'm met with this splashing box. I'll do equal to the current values because that's the values we already have. And now let's press save to see the changes happening. Let's just wait a second and see it updates. So here you can see it updated to 5%. So now at least we know that we have added 5% to the budget for 2013. But that's very much high-level inputs. What about the option of making some inputs on child levels? And we can do that. We can do inputs on either a cell, so a singular cell or individual cell, we can make a change. So let's change these 4,500 here to 10,000 in my intercompany sales. So that's a single cell change I make here. I could also say, okay, so instead of making it 1 change per cell for an entire period, I could say, I know my intercompany is going to be 250,000 for the year. So let's put in that on the intercompany sale. And now again, I'm met with the splashing object. And there is some predefined, pre-built options in the splashing, which allows you to get around some of the inputs quicker. That could be we want to replace the values that is in all the cells affected by what we just did. I can also even it out, or I can change it relative to the values that are already pre-existing in the cells. If I do that, we utilize Power BI to take the weighted amount, percentage amount of every single cell which is being affected by the change we make to make sure that the inputs is distributed correctly. So by doing that, you can see I've changed the cells all the way from January to December for our intercompany sales to give us a total of 250,000. With that, I think it's time to start looking at commenting. And one thing we really have been struggling with finding in tools is an availability of having a correspondence throughout our planning processes. Because some people might do an input and then need to do a comment to clarify or to support why that certain input has been made. So let's just put in a comment here and say, all right, we're going to add a comment and say this is a test comment. Here I have the option of submitting it or submitting and saving it. I'll do the submitting and saving it here. What that does is it writes a comment on the cell. It's storing the comment on the write filtering on the right area and using both the timestamp and the user credentials. So I can see who has made the comment and when has this comment been made. So that gives us the option of having a correspondence. And when I say having a correspondence, it's not just having one comment on a single cell. This could be someone responsible of doing the inputs that is making a comment onto this particular cell. And then after submitting this certain input or these data entries to a manager or to someone responsible for a department, they can both see the comment and they can add their own comments to it. So here, if I press the comment button again, you can see there is a history of all the comments that has been made in this particular cell. You can have multiple, and you can limit the number of comments that would be showcased at the same time in this scenario. So if I just do one more and say that is a good test comment, just to have an idea of approval of this particular comment, you can see now when I hover on this purple indicator, which indicates the comment, that there's two different comments. And as soon as Power BI updates and the data is refreshed into Power BI, we can see that once again, there's user credential and a timestamp. So this is a really good way of making sure that we have complete audit of all the inputs we make. And when I say audit, there's one more thing I want to show you before we jump to the forecast session, where we're actually using some of the Power BI power here. And that is, how can we audit all of these inputs at the same time? So if I just go to my intercompany sales again and say, let's go to March and say 0. So we change the value to 0. We press save, and then we change it really briefly to 250. Let's do that, 250. There we go. I'll save those, and then I will add another 1,000 on top of it, so 1,250 total. Just let the visual update, 1,250. There you go. And press save. Now we can go to the audit log, which will then also give us an idea of how does this look and feel in the database. From my point of view, I'm not too technical in the database verse, but at least I know Power BI well enough that I can use that. So when we're here, you can see all of the different information that we're sent back to the database. We've sent back which accounts are we doing the inputs on, in this case, the intercompany sales. We're doing it for a Northeast division, which indicates that you can utilize multiple divisions in your hierarchy, where you can really granulate how and where you want to put the data. You can see the update dates and the user details, just like we could with the comments. Then we have the scenario here, budget, and we have a month. So the month is a key and not the description of the key. This makes it easier for relational data analysis afterwards. So making sure that the keys are used, make sure that we don't end up with discrepancies in our data. We have a year, and then we have the last 4 inputs we did and all of the other inputs we just did. But I just want to highlight the last 4 because we made some changes to this particular area. We started out by adding a comment that is a good test comment. So you can see we're storing this comment on one single row for itself. And then we started making some numeric changes to the values that we were putting in. And if we look at this, we changed the value for in intercompany sales for the 3rd month, which is March, with 11,097. And we changed that to 0. So that's the input we gave, but we typed 0. And that's because we always store the delta value. And the delta value is the difference between the existing number and the new number we put in. So when we then change that value to 250, our delta value is 250. And then again, when we change it to 1,250, our delta value is 1,000. The reason for that is for transparency. Make sure that all the inputs is stored, make sure that everyone can see what has been made, and we can utilize the power of Power BI to accumulate and then distribute the right numbers in our grid for the end users. But let's go back to the report here and say, we're done with the budget, this has been approved, and now we want to start looking into a forecast. That could be a forecast 3 plus 9. It could also be a 1 plus 11. You have the option of using your time intelligence, or you can set this up manually. But here, let's choose the 3 plus 9 in this case. The 3 plus 9 indicates that the first 3 months of the year, January through March, is our actuals. So for this period of time, we have automated this service to update the actuals when we change this particular scenario, planning, forecast 3 plus 9. And these are non-writable. So I cannot make any changes to my actuals in this grid, but I have all of the freedom to make changes in my last 9-month period here, which is April through December. And the easiest way for me to showcase that is actually going to my operating profit, the highest level in the hierarchy, and once again, just use my splashing. So using my splashing here, you can see the changes being made in the rest of the year, but nothing is affecting my first 3 months, because we don't want to make changes to my January to March, because that's what we realized. That's the current most relevant data we have for this period in the time. So that's why we have made this through a very smart way in Power BI and a very simple way in Power BI, logging the cells. And logging the cells is a mechanism that we can use in accoTOOL, or in accoPLANNING in this case, where it's actually just a 1 or a 0 in the DAX measure that defines if the cell is locked or if it's open. In this case, it's hard locked. So in this case, I can't make changes to it either, even if I really, really wanted to. But there's also a possibility of making what I would call a local lock. So some people might have a way of doing their budgeting and their planning where they are doing 1 month at a time. So if that was me, I would do April now and say, okay, my April has to be changed just a little bit. So I'm adding 10% to this particular scenario. There we go. 1.10 and current value, and say, perfect, that's it. And then what I can do then is just press my April, say, log any children. When I do that, my cell turns white instead of gray, and there is a small log icon on all the cells. This is a local log, so this only works for me on this particular report that I'm in. And this gives me the same options as I have with the first 3 months. I can still do my splashing on the highest level, and that will not affect the ones I've locked down. But it also gives me the option of saying, hey, I know that I need to make at least one more change, then I can reopen it and I can change the value if I wanted to. So it's more a flexibility thing and a temperament thing for how the end users like to utilize these tools. And this is just one way of showing how you can leverage Writeback in Power BI. There's plenty more options, plenty more flexibilities and functionalities and features in these visuals. But this was a very high-level helicopter view of utilizing Power BI for your planning, for your budgets, and for your forecasts. So that was the demo of accoPLANNING, and I hope you enjoyed the session. Obviously, when you're working with Writeback, there is some functionality, some features, and some capabilities and prerequisites that you need to have. One of them is you need Power BI. Obviously, we're working with Writeback for Power BI. Then you need to download the visual. You can get that for free through the Power BI app source, get it into your environment, and start testing it out. And then you need somewhere to store the data. So you need to have either an Azure SQL database, a Fabric SQL database, or you can utilize a SQL on-prem database as well. We support those free at all. So when you have these things up, it's pretty simple to get started. You download, you set up, and then you connect to your database, and you then get your license and you start utilizing it. I'd like to just very briefly present you the pricing and the cost of these licenses, because that's where we think we stand out. We start at $14 per month per user, and it is only for users that has to do Writeback. Anyone viewing what people has been done or has been doing is not required to have a license from us. So we have complete transparency through everything we do. We do complete transparency through our pricing cost. We do it through our knowledge base, where you have all the information available. You can utilize the knowledge base to set up from 0 to 100%, guided through both video material, through guided documents, and through all of the information you can find there, you should be able to get started and also get finished setting up a Writeback functionality directly in Power BI using accoTOOL. Because our vision is to make this accessible for everyone without necessarily be connected to, that could be a consultancy or needing to have a big BI department internally. So we really want to give all the power to all of you guys through the knowledge base, where you can find guides to set up, to structure, to make advanced things with these visuals. And with that, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, or if you see your solution maybe moving into Power BI, your current planning and budgeting solution moving into Power BI, but you're not super sure how you want it to be done, reach out to us. You can always contact us through the information in the link here and set up a discovery call. Talk to one of our people who's maybe more technical than I am, and we can start looking into how can you adopt these visuals? How can you do it either yourself, or if you need any assistance? We do provide both consultancy, but we also have partners all around the globe that might be there to help you. And thank you very much for watching today. Again, if you have any questions, we're just one click away.